All right, the final bits for this discussion here, for the current discussion will be, now that second version over here is actually wrong. So what should we do? All right, we know that if it's actually multiple if statements over here, so each one of them will be executed independently of whether the others are really executed. So that means, so if you simply got overlapping condition over here, that's not the way to go, right? If you got multiple if statement over here. So so here's a lesson. Whenever you got multiple if statements in your syntax like this, like a if, and if, you want to make sure the branching conditions are non-overlapping. And how do you really do non-overlapping conditions? Let's now do it right away, okay? The answer is, you want in this case, you want to specify a particular range. You want to specify a set of disjoints and non-overlapping ranges using conjunction operator. Okay, let's see one by one over here. Let's see the first one. Okay, the first one here, you can see we say if the marks is between 90 and 100, right? Let me just talk about this one specifically. Okay, this one here. This one here, what does it really mean? When I say you can, this one, I just put it in a way that's similar to your math, right? In your math, you will simply say 90 less than or equal to marks, also less than or equal to 100. But you cannot write this directly in Java or in any programming language. What you're gonna do is you're gonna split this into two parts. This will be the first part. This must be true, and also the second part over here must also be true. So that's how you do it. Okay. So that's why I'm gonna say marks larger than or equal to 90, and also marks less than or equal to 100, right? That's what we're gonna do. So now the green one over here is really trying to say over here. Okay, let's see. Marks larger than or equal to 90. So what that says is, you can see that's inclusive over here, right? With the equality. So that means we're really talking about the pivot over here, 90 should be inclusive. Okay, let's try this. When I say larger than or equal to 90, so that's basically this particular range over here, larger than or equal to 90. And then less than or equal to 100. Okay, so now I can just put another pivot point over here. Let's say this point over here is 100 over here, right? And then this point over here will be less than or equal to 100 over here. Less than or equal to, like that, right? You can see larger than or equal to will go all the way until conceptually infinity, right? And also less than or equal to 100 will go all the way down to minus infinity conceptually. So now, what will be the overall range that's really being satisfied? Since we say both of them should be the case, so we're going to use conjunction. So conjunction is going to be ampersand and ampersand. That's what we will do. So ampersand is going to make sure we actually take the intersection of the two intervals. So it's going to be between 90 and 100 over here. So this is exactly the range that we are trying to specify over here. And for each one of them, it's going to be specified the same way, using conjunction, 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 conjunction over here. So hopefully now at least you can see why mathematically we have this particular range specified over here. It can be coded up using Java by splitting it into two conditions over here, Boolean condition, like a relational expression, and then using conjunction to combine them. And combining them, visually speaking, is just like taking the intersection of them. So that'll be the green one. Okay, hopefully that's the first point you can get. And then after that, what we can do is we want to make sure all of the ranges we are specifying using conjunction are simply non-overlapping. So non-overlapping is really important because being overlapping is exactly why the version number one, this particular version number 2 here actually fell, right? So now let's see how we can improve it using conjunction. So for this one here, let's say we simply say it's actually we're using a conjunction over here, larger than or equal to 80, and also strictly less than 90. So what we're doing over here is actually larger than or equal to 80. So this will be actually over here, right? It will be a solid point. So what we'll do is it's going to be larger than or equal to 80, but just strictly less than. Let me draw a little bit better. larger than or equal to 80 but strictly less than 90. Okay, like that. And then for the previous one, the green one is simply between 90 and also 100 inclusive, right? Okay, hopefully you can see that. All right, now hopefully, so now we can see the rest very quickly. For example, what about between 75 and also 80? So between 75 and also 80 is going to be does not include 80, so only up to here, right? And including 75. Let me just put the this point over here will be inclusive for all of them over here. And let's be complete over here. So what about over here? What about larger than or equal to 70 but strictly less than 75? Larger than or equal to 70, strictly less than 75. And also larger than or equal to 65, strictly less than 70. Larger than or equal to 65, strictly less than 70, right? So you can see all the ranges are now exactly disjoint and also non-overlapping. And the critical point over here is you can see over here. So here you can see, for example, I'll just show you one example. You can see here we say larger than or equal to 90 for one range. The other one we say strictly less than 90, right? So you can see when it is 90, for example, you will only satisfy this branch, but not this one over here, right? Okay, you can make that observation as well. All right, let's complete it very quickly. So now we got larger than or equal between 60 and 65. So between 60 and 65 over here, including 60 but excluding 65. And then we got between 55 and also 60, including 55 but excluding 60. Okay, and do I have any more color? Okay, let's say yellow. Okay, between 50 and 55, including 50 but excluding 55. And finally, the final one, let's say this is going to be 0 and also 50, right? So from 0 all the way to 50, but excluding 50. Right? You can see all the ranges over here are simply disjoint. Again, I try to visualize completely for you so you can really see why these conditions over here using logical conjunction is really like using logical conjunction is really non-overlapping and disjoint. Okay. So guys, before I go any further, recap. Each individual range over here, each one of them is going to be specified using conjunction. Visually speaking, we are by doing conjunction, we are taking the intersection of the two intervals. Point number one. Point number two, also we are being very careful about the boundary values. So here, larger than or equal to 90 on the low end. So here, strictly less than 90 on the high end for another range. That's why they don't really overlap, right? So now let's try to trace the value. And the value we would like to test will be 63 over here. Let's make sure it's really going to work. So now we want to evaluate this particular condition over here. So now 63 and also 63, right? And I assume you guys already know the definition for the truth table for conjunction and disjunction. If you don't know, you can refer to your lecture. That's something I assume. So now 63 let's try this. Okay. So now 63. So now if you look at this condition here, right? Look at this. 90 less than or equal to 63 is simply just false. Agree? 63 less than or equal to 100 is simply true. So you got false and true. For conjunction, false and true is going to be false. Conjunction will only be true if both are true. All right, so this will be bypassed. And then, so now 80 less than or equal to 63 is going to be false. 63 less than 90 is going to be true. So we still got a false true situation. Going to be false, bypassed. Okay, and then evaluate this. 75 less than or equal to 63, false. 63 less than 80, true. So false and true, going to be false. So bypass. All right, 70 less than or equal to 63 is also false. And this part here, 63 less than 75 is actually true. So we still got false and true. Okay, so it's still going to be false. All right, bypass. All right, how about this one here? Still false, I'm afraid. So now 65 less than or equal to 63 is going to be false. And then 63 less than 70 is going to be true. So now it's going to be false. All right, bypass. So now see this one here is really important. So now you can see that 60 less than or equal to 63 is going to be true. 63 less than 65 is also going to be true. So we got true and true is going to be true. So that means we're going to execute this line over here. So since this is so important, I'm just going to highlight it. All right. So this one here is going to be the first one that's going to be true, and then we're going to execute it. Okay. All the above all the above, not really branches, but all the above independent if statements are not being have not been executed simply because their branching conditions are false. What about the next one? You can see the next one over here is really important to see. So now 55 less than or equal to 63 is actually true, but now 63 strictly less than 60 is actually false. So we got a true false. Right, 63 less than 60 would be false. So we got a true false situation as opposed to false true. So true false is going to be also false. So we're also going to bypass this, right? Evaluate this. 50 less than or equal to 63 is actually true. 63 less than 55 is actually false. So we got true and false. False. Bypass. Finally, 0 less than or equal to 63 is going to be true. And now 63 strictly less than 50 is going to be false. True and false, we got false. Also bypass. So it turns out the only branch that the only if statements whose body will be executed is over here. That's the only one. So you can think about this part here is really somehow similar to the version number 1 that we talked about, in which only this part here, the else if branch, is executed. So now, before you, I'm going to end the video soon after I show the debugger to you, but you really want to compare version 1 and also version 3 to see why they will end up being both correct. However, for version number 2, with the overlapping conditions for multiple if statements, is simply incorrect, right? That's really the main lesson I want to show you completely in this part of the tutorial. All right, now let me just show you one more about this version over here. So let me just go back to Eclipse over here. Let me just go back to the grade over here. Let me switch back to the correct version. Okay. Before I do that, let me make some comments over here for you. Incorrect version, multiple independent if statements with overlapping conditions, right? So that's basically what we set for version number 2. I'm just going to select this block over here and then Control or Command /. So I'm just gonna leave the incorrect version for you for your reference, and then I'm just going to select the block for the correct one, right? And then Command or Control /. All right, and we actually don't need this anymore. I can get rid of it. All right, so now this will be the correct version. And then let me just copy this comment over here, so I can just leave some correct comments for you over here. Okay, still this will be the correct version. Multiple independent if statements with non-overlapping, or you can say equivalently disjoint conditions over here. Okay, finally, let's now do two things. If I go back to test grade, right, I'm still calling the this get letter grade 2. Previously, it was referring to the incorrect version, but I already commented out. So now, if I rerun the test, it's going to give me green bar for all the for both tests, right? Just make sure you got it. And now, let me just trace it one more time. If I launch the debugger over here, I'm going to, you know what? Currently, I'm still in the debug perspective, but I should have switched back to the Java perspective. Let me do it again to be complete. Let me now, first of all, switch back to Java over here, and then stop the test, and then I'm going to launch the debugger over here, and then I'm going to switch to debug perspective. You can see this will be better, but somehow the layout has been messed up over here. So what I can do is I can simply just go to Window and also Show View, maybe go to Perspective over here, and then I can simply say Reset the perspective. This might be a nice thing to show you anyway, so in case the debug perspective is messed up. All right, so now I'm the breakpoints pausing over here right before I try to execute line number 19, and then I'm gonna say step into over here. All right, so now you can see it's interesting here. You can see this is the incorrect version I have already commented out. So now, question for you: if now I say step over, which line am I going to jump into? Am I going to jump into line number 41, or am I going to jump into line number 71? It should be 71 because all the comments are for humans like you and me only, not for the computer. So now if I say step over, now I'm 71. All right. All right. So now you can try to put these conditions over here. I'll put one for you. You can simply copy it and then go to expressions, and then let me just add a new one, right? And then paste. You can see this condition is going to be false, which means if I say step over, it's going to bypass the body in line number 72. So I'll go to 74 directly. All right. And then it's going to be the same for all these. I'll let you try. Okay. You can simply test the this condition over here again by putting into the expressions. You can try. All right. If I say step over, right, jump to 77. Step over is going to jump to 80. All right. Nothing has been satisfied yet. And step over, jump to 83. Step over, jump to 86, and this will actually be correct, be true. If I copy this and then I simply paste it over here, it's going to be true. So now, if I do step over again, it's going to overwrite the letter grade C to be letter grade from empty string into C. That's what it's going to do. All right, you can see now the letter grade has become C. All right, so what about the rest? For example, you can see this one here. It's not going to be executed because it's actually false for the branch, right? If I say step over, it's going to jump to 92. Also, this branching condition you can check will also be false. So if I say step over, it will jump to 95. If I say step over again, basically that's also false. It will jump to 99. All right, so it's really a complete trace together with you on both the paper and also on the Eclipse, right? Let me now stop this and make sure, please, you go back to the Java perspective over here. All right. So that'll be about this part of the video. I really try to be very thorough and complete about explaining the three versions over here, right? You should really try to generalize this yourself as well, right? Recap very quickly. Version 1, 2, and 3. Single if statements and all the conditions are overlapping. That is okay. All right. Multiple if statement for version number 2. If statement 1, 2, 3, 4, multiple if statement also with overlapping condition, it would be incorrect. Version number 3, you still got multiple if statements over here. However, now the branching condition using conjunction to specify, we make sure it's actually disjoint over here, and this will be correct. So that'll be the three versions you would like to study carefully before you move on.